Tonight, Site C concerns, what to do with the work camp when construction wraps up. Alleged hit and run, a Dawson Creek man facing a number of charges. Toxic drugs, Northern Health issuing an alert for Fort St. John. Good evening and thank you very much for joining us. We begin tonight with BC Hydro hoping to repurpose the work camp at the Site C Dam near Fort St. John. Now, back in March, we reported the possible demolition of the camp that sparked discussion on waste management. BC Hydro now says the goal has since shifted to finding interesting parties to acquire the Site C camp. They say the facility received a high level of interest from a number of organizations in recent months. In July, the Peace River Regional District Board reviewed a plan to transform the camp into a center offering addiction treatment and mental health services. Now, BC Hydro says there's still construction work to conclude at the dam, and the camp remains open until later this fall. The Site C dam became fully operational back on August the 8th when a sixth and final generator went into service. A Dawson Creek man has been charged after police allege a pickup stolen from Beaver Lodge was involved in a hit and run near the BC-Alberta border. Brendan Badger is facing 7 charges, including possession of stolen property over $5,000 and flight from police. Tuesday afternoon, police say a Ford F-350 was reported stolen in Beaver Lodge, and within the hour, Mounties alleged the truck was involved in a hit and run near Demet. The driver was identified as a male from Dawson Creek. Well, then around 2 Wednesday morning, officers located the truck with 3 people inside. The pickup fleeing allegedly the scene, but police managed to deploy a spike belt deflating 3 of its tires. The vehicle drove through residential and rural areas of Dawson Creek for about an hour before getting stuck in a gravel lot. 3 suspects fled on foot. Badger remains in police custody pending his next scheduled court appearance. Northern Health has issued a toxic drug alert in Fort St. John after reporting an increase in the number of overdoses in the community. They say recent overdoses have caused heavy and prolonged sedation, taking more naloxone to reverse. The advisory comes with safety tips to follow when using substances. Health officials recommend to carry naloxone, not to use alone, and not to mix drugs with alcohol. Residents are also being reminded to visit the local overdose prevention site on 98th Street. The Dawson Creek Hospital was on diversion once again today. Northern Health saying the hospital's emergency department was closed due to staffing challenges. The service interruption started at 5 this morning and continued until 3 this afternoon. The Fort Nelson Hospital also had to close its ER overnight because of unexpected staffing challenges. Northern Health says patients in need of life-threatening emergency care were transported to the nearest available hospital. The emergency room at the Dawson Creek Hospital has now reopened. Weeks ahead of the return to school, the spread of measles seems to be slowing down in northern BC. The BC Centre for Disease Control confirming 1 new measles case in the province. They say it comes from the Northern Health region, and that brings the total here to 143 for the year. Province-wide health officials say the number of measles cases stays the same at 197. That's because they removed a case from the Interior Health region. And most of the cases across British Columbia come from people who are not vaccinated against the highly contagious virus. Prince George RCMP asking people this morning to avoid the downtown area as they investigated a bomb threat. Mounties say the courthouse on George Street was the target. There was a large police presence downtown with multiple roads blocked off. Now, the courthouse was evacuated. A while later, police determined the threat was a false call and the public was allowed to return to the downtown area. One BC leader, Dallas Brody, has launched a private prosecution against Samidone co-founder Charlotte Cates, who is accused of having ties to a pro-Palestinian terrorist group.
And if the NDP, David Eby, Nikki Sharma will not prosecute terrorism, I will.
Brody making the announcement outside of the Vancouver Provincial Courthouse, where she was met by protesters and supporters of Cates. Well, the pro-Palestinian activist was arrested back in April of 2024. Vancouver police recommended that she be charged with hate crimes after she praised the Hamas attack on Israel during the rally. Well, Brody says since then, nothing has been done to bring Cates to justice. Attorney General Nikki Sharma says it remains an active investigation.
And the ability to prosecute hate crimes very seriously, although it's not my decision about when charges are laid directly from the prosecution service. My understanding of Brody's request is that it falls on the wrong level of government, that if it's related to terrorism charges, and that would be at a federal level.
Now, Sharma adds that the BC Prosecution Service makes decisions independent from the government. She says that prosecutions are not political decisions, and by making it one, could interfere with the investigation. New numbers for BC's real estate forecast shows 2026 could be a good year to buy a home. The new report from the BC Real Estate Association shows sales are still projected to drop just over 2% this year before rebounding by 10% next year. The BC REA says trade-related uncertainty upend hopes for a more normal market through the first half of this year, but they say provincial resale inventory has stabilized this year, something not seen in over a decade. Home prices are expected to remain flat this year before rising slightly in 2026. Starting tomorrow, anglers will have a rare opportunity to catch sockeye salmon in a stretch of the Fraser River. Fisheries and Oceans Canada issuing a rare notice. It allows for the recreational fishing of sockeye from 1 hour before sunrise to 1 hour after sunset between this Friday and September the 1st. Anglers can keep 2 sockeye per day from a non-tidal stretch of the river. That starts from the Mission Bridge and ends upstream in Hope. One BC fishing guide says the news is something to be celebrated, but he wishes the limit on the number of fish was higher. An exhibition in Jasper showcases Canada's glacial landscapes. Photographers Jim Elzinga and Roger Vernon both captured a collection of landscapes at the Columbia Icefield. The exhibition highlights the ice field and the effects of climate change on the glacier. It's time to mark the United Nations International Year of the Glacier's Preservation. You can see it at the Columbia Icefield Discovery Center until October the 15th. Staying in Alberta, a severe thunderstorm causing all sorts of damage in the southern part of the province yesterday.
Power lines get knocked down from the damaging winds, and a roof from a barn got torn off as well.
The storm causing near zero visibility on the roads near Brooks. It also brought loony-sized hail, heavy rain, and damaging wind gusts to the region. The severe weather shut off a section of Trans-Canada Highway near Brooks for hours due to multiple collisions and downed power lines. A defense lawyer says Crown lawyers will not appeal the acquittals of the 5 former World Junior hockey players who were accused of sexual assault after their high-profile trial earlier this summer. The lawyer for Alex Formenton was notified of the decision by Ontario's Attorney General office today. The spokesperson for the Attorney General has not returned a request for comment. The former players were acquitted in connection with an incident in a London, Ontario hotel back in June of 2018 following a Hockey Canada Gala event. The players' nearly 6-week criminal trial was marked by repeated delays, a mistrial, and the dismissal of a second jury before a judge decided her verdict. The ripple effect of Air Canada's flight attendant strike has left passengers frustrated. Many are claiming the airline is unwilling to book them on the next available flight. CTV's Adrian Gabriel has more on the complaints and the failure of regulations to protect consumers.
The Britton family's European summer adventure ended with their scheduled flight home with Air Canada canceled.
It felt like at every step of the way, instead of trying to provide a solution, it was, you can have a refund. Please have a refund. And we knew that that was really just a way of them absolving themselves of the responsibility.
According to the Canadian Transportation Agency's regulations, if an airline can't rebook you on their airline following a cancellation, a customer may choose a reservation from the next available flight that is operated by any carrier. The Britons found the next available tickets on a United flight from Italy to Kelowna. Air Canada declined to book them.
They said they didn't have access to it.
Stuck in Lisbon, Kyla Kumar also reached out to CTV News after Air Canada refused to rebook her family on a Delta flight home.
Very clear refusal to book us on another carrier.
CTV News also received an audio recording of an Air Canada agent refusing to rebook a customer because there was only a business class seat available.
You are required to put me in that space.
That is something you can take up with customer relations to see why is that not being offered, because on our end we have to maintain the same cabin.
If only business class seats are available on next available flight. They have to rebook you.
Passenger advocates say Air Canada is knowingly breaking federal regulations for financial gain.
There is sufficient ground here to lay criminal charges.
Somebody should be doing an outreach to the CTA and saying, okay, guys, how are you going to handle this one?
CTV News did ask the Canadian Transportation Agency what they're doing to hold Air Canada responsible for breaking federal passenger protection regulations. The CTA didn't directly answer the question, saying in part that their enforcement team is actively looking into the situation and will take appropriate action as necessary.
The CTA is supposed to be the regulatory body that protects Canadian citizens. And again, these things happen, and there's really been no improvements.
CTV News has given Air Canada 2 days to respond to our questions. They've yet to return our email. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Mississauga, Ontario.
Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke by phone with Donald Trump today, calling their conversation both productive and wide-ranging. The two leaders discussed a range of issues as Canada's foreign minister met with her American counterpart in Washington. Judy Trin has the details.
This is the first in-person meeting between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand. The State Department says the two discussed Haiti, Hamas, peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, and countering China. The U.S. trade war wasn't in the readout, but analysts say it likely loomed over the talks.
In Donald Trump's world, everything is linked to everything else. And so if Canada's in a place of disagreement with the U.S. on Ukraine or on Gaza or on Haiti, then that's not something that will be helpful to the negotiations.
An example of this, on July 31st, Trump posted that Canada's intention to recognize a Palestinian state would make it difficult to make a trade deal. A day later, Trump imposed 35% tariffs on Canadian goods not covered under the North American Trade Agreement. Earlier this week, Anand traveled to Finland to meet with Nordic foreign ministers to discuss how to support Ukraine's push for security guarantees. Before the meeting, CTV News asked Anand if U.S. trade tensions put pressure on Canada to align with American interests.
The work that we're doing together is to ensure that the dialogue between our two countries along multiple issues remains open and strong. And thus far, we have had this very strong relationship.
Anand didn't answer questions about the state of trade negotiations, but today, some movement as the Prime Minister spoke to the President. The readout describes their conversations as productive and wide-ranging. They discussed trade challenges and long-term peace and security for Ukraine. The Prime Minister's office says the two leaders agreed to reconvene their conversations. Meanwhile, Carney is planning to travel to Mexico in mid-September to meet with President Claudia Sheinbaum. The two plan to find common ground so they can fight back against Trump's trade war. Judy Trin, CTV News, Washington.
Well, the White House is taking aim at judges once again, this time judges on the International Criminal Court, including a Canadian.
Judicial independence is a basic principle that must be respected. And these types of measures undermine the foundation of international justice.
Kimberly Prost has been slapped with sanctions by the Trump administration. Trump is going after the Canadian judge for her ruling to authorize the court's investigation into potential war crimes in Afghanistan by U.S. personnel. That means any assets she has in the United States will be frozen. And Prost joins a growing list of ICC judges facing similar sanctions from Trump. The ICC responded saying it deplores the sanctions. Beaches up and down the U.S. East Coast are closed as Hurricane Erin turns north. Swimmers are being warned to stay out of the water as high winds and waves cause dangerous rip currents. The storm made a mess of North Carolina's Outer Bank, even though it didn't make landfall. Erin is currently a Category 2 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 155 kilometers per hour. Environment and Climate Change Canada is expecting waves to break around 3 to 5 meters along parts of the maritime coast. The Federal Aviation Administration is investigating after a part of a Boeing 737 wing broke off before landing on Tuesday. Video from inside the plane shows the wing flap dangling. flaps or surfaces on the back of the wing designed to be extended for takeoff and landing. The Delta flight landed in Austin without any injuries. Delta says the aircraft has been taken out of service for maintenance. And back here at home, another local movie is premiering in Dawson Creek Friday night. Writer-director Rob Brown releasing his original action thriller called Blind Dates.
Hollywood extreme north is right here, for sure, with everything going on. So the online series or full-length film, absolutely, the Peace region is where it's at.
Brown says Blind Dates is a murder investigation that is shot through a media lens. The movie's inspired by Brown's 25 years as a professional journalist. The action thriller is shot and produced in Dawson Creek, and it's full of some familiar faces. You can see one right there. The first screening is Friday night at the George Dawson Inn. Tickets are available in advance or they're $30 at the door. There are also plans to show the movie across the Peace region and in Alberta. All right, please do stay tuned. Noah will be right back after the break with weather.